Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how in tyrannical regimes, and you could name sort of the, communist China, the Soviet Union, the Eastern Bloc, communist countries in Eastern Europe and others, there was it was a strange world of make-believe because the body politic and the media were completely controlled. The the elites believed that they could invent reality and then force you, make you to accept it and pretend even to believe in it. So, and you see this being alluded to in the novel, the George Orwell novel 1984, where the main protagonist Winston is forced to say that four fingers being held up in front of him is really five. We can make you say whatever we want you to say, and you have to believe it, and you have to convince us that you believe it. If you're just saying it to shut us up and get rid of us, that's not good enough. We have to believe that you believe the lie, and this is the sort of the essence, if you like, of tyrannical regimes. Now, during sort of a lot of business traveling I did, I went to quite a few sort of third world countries, many of which had what you would call tyrannical tin pot, piss poor banana republic type governments. Now, democracy was it really didn't exist. The media was not necessarily controlled by the government; it was just stuffed with government flunkies and stooges and hangers-on and so on. So there were some underground newspapers that operated, but the police would shut them down, and often journalists who were involved in that would frequently turn up dead and so on. So there was really only one source of news. But it's a strange sort of dance macabre that happens in these places. The government pretends to be telling the truth, but they know it's a lie. The public knows that they're being told lies, but pretends it's the truth. And so there's this odd sort of dance around where everyone's pretending they believe or pretending they're telling the truth and so on. Now, if the first time I started going to these places, I just assumed that, give or take, what was in the newspapers was a reflection of the reality of the minister for roads and transport at some banana republic says that we're going to fix the highways and we're going to extend it by 50 miles in both directions or something like that. Some major, say, a public works announcement. And so then I'd leave the hotel, the Western Hotel. There's mainly only Western people in the hotel. Then I'd go to the office to meet with the folks, the local folks there, and usually there's a little bit of polite chit chat and that sort of thing goes on. And so I'd mention, what I often tried to do, or always tried to do when I was visiting other countries, is read up as much about them, their current affairs, what was going on there. The names of some of their key political figures, that sort of stuff. So at least I could engage in conversation that will be topical for them, rather than forcing them to talk about, my situation, what I was doing. So I always made a point of really boning up on that type of thing. So I'd go into the office and start talking about, the road's going to be extended, and the whole office would break up in laughter. Now these are the elites, or those who are, if you like, just one category below the powerful elites. These guys aren't the string pullers necessarily, but they're doing pretty good. There's a lot of cronyism. They're paying their corrupt payments to the right people, and they're doing all right out of it. And they've got a nice little monopoly or something like that going on. So their kids will be studying in a Western country when they finish high school, and they'll have all their expenses paid and that sort of thing. So they're in that sense, pretty elite. But anyway, I mentioned things that I'd read in the papers that seemed like very straightforward, and it just broke up in laughter. And they explained to me, no, the newspapers don't have any truth in it. It's all lies. It's all just all just opiates to be consumed by the masses, that things are going to get better or about to get better or about to improve, but they never will and they never do, and that's all just bullshit, and you should take no notice of it. And okay, all right then, and yeah, they some of them at times went to efforts to explain to me, look, this is not like Australia or a Western country. Our newspapers don't print anything that's accurate or true. The only thing they might, even the weather, they don't print it's true. When there's a major storm somewhere that wipes out a village, or they'll try and make out that it was bandits or guerrillas from the mountains that came down and did it. There's nothing that's true, they say, but they just accept that's how it is. But when they're talking to a government official or someone like that, they pretend that they do believe it. And so there's this odd thing. And there was we had a lunch once, and I'm thinking at one place there were some government heavies turned up. I assume they were paying bribes to these guys, and so the government guys would talk, and I had enough of the local language to try and pick up most of it. So they would say certain things. Oh, wow, oh goodness, oh gee whiz, goodness me, isn't that wonderful? So the people would pretend to believe what they were being told, even though they didn't believe a word of it. But they pretended. But it wasn't good enough that they could make out they believed it. The government guys had to believe that they believed it. So that was the extent of that. And it became this massive mutual deception that everybody was out to deceive each other whilst pretending not to be, but while also pretending to believe the other. And it was quite remarkable to watch, and not something that in the West that I was used to. I'm thinking more of when I first began this sort of business traveling. But it was actually a lot of countries. There's very few countries that are free, and you have an independent media, and a sovereign body politic and that sort of thing. Very, very few countries have that. We accept it in the West as how things are, but it's not. There's a good 85% of the world population live in a situation where there's no free media, and the body politic is just a corrupt bunch of goons and so on. But we're heading that way in the West. Since the globalists sort of took over, they wanted to shut down the political market. So there's none of this multiple parties with different policies and prescriptions for making your life better. No, that's gone. That political market is shut down. The entire body politic is on the exact same page, certainly for all the big stuff. One party may want two transgender bathrooms in the building. The other party may want 1.5 transgender bathrooms, but effectively they're the same. They all have the same policy and same outlooks and same prescriptions, because they're all taking their instructions from the globalists. But also the media are completely owned by the globalists as well as the body politic. So we're now being fed the same sort of tyrannical type propaganda that was in the communist regimes, and also in these tin pot bullshit banana republics as well, which are in effect dictatorships. So this is something that is relatively new to the West, or certainly in the modern West. And look, a few examples. We're being told by the very apex of the body politic, the biggest threat to America is those white supremacists, damn fucking Nazis everywhere, under every bed, in every closet, around every corner. It's not the unicorn anymore, it's those damn fascist Nazis. And so we're being told, that, and then other stuff is being made up, like January 6th. It was an insurrection. They were going to take over the government. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was running for her life. There's a screaming mob was trying to grab her and tear it up. The bullshit that comes out is just beyond. You're not going to go no, but there are quite a lot of two-bit flunky stooge politicians in Washington and elsewhere. Talking heads in the media, that sort of thing, all pretend to believe it. Now, they know not a word of it is true, but they pretend to believe it. And then they broadcast that out and make stern speeches where they finger wag and look over the top of their fucking glasses and all this sort of thing. But everybody knows it's not true. The people that are saying it know it's not true. The editors in newsrooms know it's all a load of crap. But it's the same sort of tyrannical dance macabre where they pretend to believe it, they pretend to be telling you the truth, and then other people pretend to be believing what they're told, and on it goes. And this is the same thing, and we find this creeping into the West now. This pretend to believe, pretend to be telling the truth thing, and newspapers are, and the media generally, the mainstream media. It's hard to come across any story that isn't propaganda. And you look at some of the biggest news outlets in the world. Once the New York Times, the BBC News, the list goes on. There was a time when not that long ago, when the New York Times was the journal of record. If they said it, it was factually true. You could hang your hat on it. But but those days are long gone. And the same goes for. If you look at, say, the top stories, top 20 stories on the BBC. At any given tick of the clock, 15 of those stories will be outrageous propaganda about climate change, feminism, racism. The list goes on. So there's very little factual stuff that's on there, and this is the same across the whole media. So they're pretending to tell you the truth, and there are people pretending to believe it. Now, we haven't quite got to the stage yet, but I don't think it's far away. Quite got to the stage where there's going to be the dudes from the government come along and say, well, how do we know you believe? Prove to us that you believe these lies. And they need to see it on your face, your total submission, your total subjugation to the lie, as you pretend in abject humiliation to say, no, that horrible, grotesque lie you're telling, I completely believe it, and I can prove to you that I believe it through my kowtowing and submission. I don't think we're far from that now. Let's hope it doesn't happen, but I think it's only around the corner. But I'd like to see your views in the comments below. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.